Hello, my name is Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the BlueLynx hockey spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that uses Excel programming to help you conveniently manage your tabletop hockey league project, including the standings, the schedule, but most of all, the player and team stats for your entire league. BlueLynx was created to help you get more enjoyment out of your tabletop hockey projects by giving you more time to play the games and look over the stats instead of painstakingly calculating them and entering them into a spreadsheet. In this video, I'm going to cover the various statistics that the BlueLynx hockey spreadsheet tracks, and including the league leaders. So it uses several sheets to track these stats, and let's see what they are and how to interpret them. For this video demonstration, I'm going to use my 1971 historic league season league that I've played several games in. You can see here from the standings. So let's look at these stat sheets and see how to interpret them. Let's go to our navigator, click on stats. Here are the leaders. I'm going to look at that last, but let's look at these other 8. So you can first see there are 8 other sheets. They're kind of half of them are for skaters, half are for goalies, half are for players, half are for teams. So that's kind of how they break down. But these first 2 are these game logs. And if we look at that, and I'm going to sort this, I'll sort this by the game number. But all these stat sheets keep the stats in these tables with the header row being allowing you to sort them in different ways that you want to. So I'm going to sort these by the season game number from small to large. So kind of in the order that they were, not that I say the order they were played, but the order they were on the schedule. And all this is simply is kind of like the box score stats for each player in the game. Now, whether they really played in your game or not, the score sheet doesn't know. But if they were in the starting lineup on the score sheet, they'll have a row in this sheet for every game that they were in the lineup for. So whether you really played them or not, if they really played in your game, it doesn't know, but it kind of assumes that they played. And you can see here all these columns are pretty self-explanatory what they stand for. This is even strength shots, penalty minutes. These 3 plus minus here are not populated right now because I don't calculate plus minus yet. I'm hoping to in a future version, so I kind of gave it the real estate here, but right now there won't be any data in those columns. This SA and SM, this is shootout attempts, this is shootout attempts made. I might make these column headers a little better, a little more clear, I guess, but that's what they stand for. And the hat trick. And although these are kind of boring to look at, they do form the building blocks of all the other sheets. So treat them with respect. One thing you can use these for that could be useful is if you want to see kind of how somebody's been doing, you can look at this lineup player name, and you can kind of filter if you click one of these and unselect all, and maybe I want to pick let's go with Bobby Hall. I just want to see his games. So this will show because they've played several games. You can see how he's done in their games. So this could be kind of interesting if you want to check on if you want to confirm a scoring streak or just kind of see what they've done in the last 10 games or whatever. You can use this to kind of look at that. And to clear these, you just click on this little filter thing here and say clear. Okay, so that's the skater game log. Let's go on to the next one. So the goalie game log is kind of what you'd expect, pretty much the same thing except for goalies, although it has one extra thing in here, which is one, it only writes them in here if they have time on ice. So if you know, if the goalie didn't have any time on ice in a game, they won't show up in this stat sheet. So in that regard, it's a little bit different than the skaters, where everybody gets entered there. But here, if you really want to know how many games a goalie played, this would tell you. And it does log each team's empty net goalie stats, so they're kind of treated as a player. Over here on the right, with these columns with under the green header, these are team power play and penalty kill stats. I just use the starting goalie for the game to as the row that they're shown on, but they're not goalie stats, so that's why they kind of have this special header up here. But this is a way to see your team power play and penalty kill stats in a game, um, as well as shorthanded goals allowed and shorthanded goals scored. So that's the goalie game log stat sheet. The next two you see here on the list are these team logs. And I'll also mention when you're on the navigator and you hover on it, it will also tell you what the name of the actual sheet is that has this data in it. So this team skater goal has GTSS. So when you look at that, here's the GTSS, and it gives you I guess the acronym of what it stands for of game, team, skater, stats. So if we look at these are these are sorted here right now by game number, which is okay. But this would kind of say this is for the LA Kings in game 1, and I kind of stole this or kept this from the Green Fox baseball stat sheet, where it shows when you look at team stats, it shows who your starting pitcher and who you were facing. Or here it's similar. It shows who was your meaning this team's starting goalie and who was the opposing starting goalie. Then over here are the team stats. And also on these team ones, it shows these team notes, and it's a very small column here. But if you want to really see what they are, you could click this green button up here, and it'll expand or contract so you can see these notes. And again, these are all the same stats that are on the standard skater thing, although these do show and they also show the shooting percentage, which is obviously kind of incorrect here because not a lot of games that I have kept track for shots on goal and such, so that's why it's so many 1000s. But anyway, so that's basically, it's just kind of the overall team stats for each game. So now if we move on to the team goalie stats, let's look at those. The team goalie game log looks like this. And again, you can use all these kind of filters. If I just want to look at the Vancouver Canucks, I don't know how many games they've played. 4. It shows who they've had 3 different starting goalies, which is kind of interesting. Who their opponents were and kind of what their basic goalie stats were. And it also shows the team power play stats here, just like it did on the in the goalie game log. You'll see the same thing here. So now let's go moving on. Let's look at these seasons. So those are all kind of the per game stats. Now these next 4 have to do with cumulative or season stats. Let's see what they look like. So the first one is probably the most popular one, which would be the season player skater stats. If we look at that, that's SPSS for the same thing I just said. Let's move this out of the way, and let's sort this by points, because that's what a lot of people like to do. We'll say sort from largest to smallest, and this would kind of give you the league leaders in points right now, even though they haven't played the same number of games. But that's just for demonstration purposes. It's good. I put the position in here, and this is the position they are on their roster. So it's, you know, I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but if you might want to use it if you want to just look at maybe defense, or you could just say if I just want to look at forwards, you could click this and just say, okay, I only want to look at these centers and wings, my forwards. You could see that. But more, maybe you just want to look at defense and see who's doing best on defense. But anyway, so that's why this position is here. It's not, again, it's not a big deal. Um, and these are the same stats as before, as we're in the game log going on. These are cumulative, so these are kind of more, I guess you'll say, more exciting. This is stuff people want to see. Now let's move on to the goalie stats. Next up will be the season goalie stats. So they look like, I guess probably look like what you'd expect. You could sort these on the various columns if you'd like. Then the last two are the season team stats. So here's team offense or team skater stats. Then we have team goalie stats. Let's just sort of just flip this around. Team goalie stats, and over here are those, again, the team power play stats. One thing else I'll mention here on these various stat sheets, the skater and goalie game logs are kind of simple enough. These next two, these skater game logs, can be rebuilt from the skater and goalie game log. So when you upgrade your spreadsheet, it only copies these first two sheets. The rest of the other six you can regenerate. And that's what these buttons do up here. After you play a game, it saves the stats to these first four sheets: the skater and goalie game log, and the team skater and team goalie log. It writes to all those. But these season stats, it doesn't update those at all. You have to do those manually. So if you wanted to compute those, you know, you'd have to do them on demand. So, and similarly, if you wanted to recompute these teams, if you had to fix something or whatever reason, you could recompute these team stats right here. If I want to click this, I'd say recompute these based on the skater and goalie game logs, and it'll churn through all that data and regenerate your team stats for each game. It only takes, I don't know, probably less than a minute to do. But so when it's done, it'll look like this. So then I'm going over here to these season stats. Let's see how to recompute those, or to compute those, I should say. So to compute the season stats, we'll go to the season player skater stats, and in all likelihood, like I said, it has these frozen panes here, depending on how big your screen is, if you can't see it all at once. So that way, if I scroll to the right here, you still see who the player is. And that also is reason why you might want to click this Show Hide Player ID, which you don't probably care about this. So if you hide that, it just lets you see more on your screen. But anyway, so on this page, there are a couple buttons here. You can see it says Compute Season Player Skater Stats, and this one says Compute Season Player Skater and Goalie, and this one says Compute All Season Stats, Players, Team, Skater, Goalie, and that's what I'm going to do. The other ones really are just there. Well, anybody can use them, but typically if you're going to compute your season stats, you just say compute all of them. And this one then at the end will prompt you to compute your league leaders. So let's just click this button. You know, it's computing all the cumulative or season stats. I'm going to say no right now because we'll do that in a second. But now if I look, now it ends up on these season player skater stats. And if we want to see who the points leader is, I can go to this points, say sort largest to smallest, and there I would see my points leader. So we'll generate our league leaders and make sure that hopefully it jives with this. But so let's see how to do that. So to go to our league leaders, we could have done it there, but let's go up to this, use our navigator here to go to the leaders sheet. There's only one sheet. It looks like this. I'm going to clear, well, I'm going to just hit this compute. Again, it doesn't automatically compute when you finish your game, so you compute it whenever you want it. So I could, this collapse all kind of lets you see what the categories are that it will compute leaders for. And some I've reserved for future that I haven't done yet, like these scoring streaks and maybe plus minus, and these DVDs that maybe something else will come up. But in general, these are the categories. So I'm going to expand all of these, and I'm going to click this compute, and it asks me this, but I gotta go. I need to go change this right now, which is entry the number of games to qualify for. You know, I should say some stats require something that you need to qualify for, and like I'm trying to think what it would be. Maybe shooting percentage if you had something like that. Some of those percentage leaders that you can't just play one game and be the league leader in that category. So it's kind of like in baseball, like batting average and ERA. You have to play so much to qualify to win those quote titles. So that's, and there is some of those for hockey, but it's not as obvious, well known, and talked about. So I need to change the title of this so that it's correct. But what this comes down to is it's trying to see, okay, what's the least number of games that teams have played. So if everybody's played at least two, then that's all. That's what it'll default to make that qualification. But you can change it to whatever you want. But I'll leave it two and compute this. Because most of the stats we're going to care about, like goals, assists, points, and stuff, the number of games somebody's played doesn't matter. So, like shooting percentage, it might matter, but it's not even being calculated right now. So, anyway, so here's our leaders. So here are the points. Del Vecchio, Esposito, Hodge, and Pitt Martin all have 10. If we kind of go to this, let's go double check that. Their season player skater stats. You know, let me. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. Oh, sorry, I thought I had it sorted already. But when I do the league leaders, it uses this and it resorts it. So sorry about that. So here we are with, you know, the exact order of these 10 aren't the same, but they are the same 10 of Esposito, Hodge, Del Vecchio, and Martin. And that's who we have here. So that's a little bit of a confirmation that it's got the correct math going on. But anyway, so yeah, here are the leaders. You can look at the different categories. Again, this is really a function of how you're tracking and what stats you're tracking in your league. And again, in this demonstration league, I haven't consistently kept the same stats in all the games, so these leaders are kind of bogus, but the concept is legit. But one thing I want to show is, let's say as a Red Wings fan, I want to see how Gordie Howe is doing. So if I want to highlight where he is on the various leaderboards, I could click his name and it'll highlight where he is in these different categories. Similarly, if I just want to look at all the Montreal Canadiens, if I click on their team like this, it'll show me all the Montreal people. So Cornwall and Bellevue and whoever else. So that's kind of how the stats work. You can clear these highlights with this button here. If I want to go to the goalie stats, I can scroll down or just click this yellow button. It'll jump down here. So here, similarly, you have that number of games that does impact the goals against average and save percentage, which, for goalies, those are big categories. So that's where that number of games comes into play, especially, and winning percentage and things like that. But anyway, so here are the goalie stats, and these work the same way if clicking on a player. If I wanted to click this Ernie Wakely guy and see where he shows up, I can see that, or whoever else I want to pick, Tony Esposito. So anyway, that's how the league leaders work. That's how the excuse me, let me clear these out. Jump back to the top. And that's how the stats work. So hopefully that gives you a good enough idea of how to interpret these various stats sheets, what they mean, and how to manipulate them or sort them, especially to get what you're trying to get out of your hockey project. So that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. And like Red Green says, keep your stick on the ice.